I swear, guys, I thought this was going to be an interesting video series. But like I said in part 1, you only know how interesting a video is actually going to be once you start playing the games. So here we are with Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, and Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage. The former released for the PlayStation in 1997, and the latter released on the PS1 in 1999. It's simple, really. Crash 1 was a hit, he became the face of the PS1, and he got a sequel. Spyro took Crash's place as the PS1 mascot for the back half of the generation and got a sequel 1 year after the first game. Back when you could make exciting, innovative, and polished sequels just 1 year after the previous game. I've been playing Crash 2 since I was like 5 years old. It was a chance buy, really. Like one of those games you get on vacation while visiting a store. But when I was a young lad, I really enjoyed playing Crash 1 and Crash 2, even if I was pretty bad at them. When I was a kid, I thought Crash was a dog, to be honest. Just listen to him. Spyro's a series I only really knew of from GexUp's videos. With the glowing praise given to Spyro 2, it was actually the first one in the series I tried back in like 2011. It didn't really do anything for me, so yeah, and that stayed consistent for years to come as we reached the present day. Coming out of the last video, I was really hoping this series on Crash vs. Spyro would not just be, well, I like Crash and I don't really care for Spyro, but well, that's how it is, nothing we can really do about it. But what do I think of these sequels? Let's find out. Starting with the story though, if there's such a thing as an idiot plot, Crash Bandicoot 2 has got to be a textbook model. Like, I'm really not sure what the plot of this game is even going for, as Cortex returns needing the 25 slave crystals and tricks Crash into getting them for him. Despite the new character, Crash's sister, Coco Bandicoot, don't know how a lab experiment has a girlfriend or a sister, trying to tell him otherwise. That's literally it. Crash collects the crystals for Cortex, completely unaware of him being the bad guy. He finds out, he beats Cortex, and that's that. The end. The Cortex Vortex gets destroyed by Brio if you collect the gems, though. I do like how the game literally begins the second the previous game ends, although this game makes the 100% quest for Crash 1 even more pointless, as there you were allowed to skip the final boss fight, and here it just shows that Crash did beat Cortex in Crash 1, so that shit's non-canon. I'm pretty sure the story of this game only really exists to show off the fancy new animations. Like, for 1997, the facial animation in this game is superb. Voice acting was a new thing for games, and to have it be this good and have lip sync in check is a job well done. Crash 1 was the point where Naughty Dog showed off their talent as far as tech is concerned, but Crash 2 is when they became a big deal, if you ask me. Instead of just some guy at Naughty Dog, Dr. Neo Cortex is now voiced by Clancy Brown, who would go on to keep playing the character for a couple games, to be replaced by Lex Lang in Crash to Insanity. Clancy Brown, of course, expertly played Lex Luthor in the DC animated universe. I always thought it was funny that Clancy got replaced as Cortex by a guy named Lex Lang, as Lana Lang has actually dated Lex Luthor in the Superman Season 1 episode My Girl. But anyway, during the 6th generation of consoles, having DCU voice actors was more common, as games and cartoons had a lot of crossover in that era. But to have Clancy Brown in your 1997 platformer to me just indicates a level of seriousness and devotion to good presentation that other companies weren't doing, just being glad to have voice acting at all. But enough chatter, time to pick up the platter and discuss Spyro 2. The first game really did have a nothing story, but I thought the Spyro 2 was a big improvement as far as the story was concerned. Spyro and Spark's looking to take a vacation but get taken to the world of Glimmer as the villain Ripto is now taking over the land, as Spyro has to help Hunter, Allura, and the Professor stop Ripto and save the day. Like, I didn't actually give a damn, but I found the cutscenes and voice acting to be good enough to hold my attention, with the game creating series mainstays like Allura or Hunter. Ripto was a bit of a bland villain, just screaming his head off, but still, I did like these level opening and ending cutscenes, as it serves to add more context to you as a player, to make you more than a character collecting gems in an area, and make you more of a hero for going around and helping people. I think this game was the start of Insomniac's sense of humor making it into the games. I really like the moments of physical humor, but as far as more overt statements are concerned, interacting with Moneybags was just really funny because I love how much of a casually greedy capitalist douchebag he is. Like, no in-your-face speech, he just cannot do a super easy thing until he gets paid first. So because of that, Spyro 2 got a couple of chuckles out of me, and I'm not going to ask much more from a Spyro story. Spyro 2 did a lot to improve the series as well. Spyro 1's biggest con for me was the game was really dull, uninteresting, easy, and so on. Like, it was the kind of game that leaves no impression behind after a first playthrough because there was nothing there besides collecting gems and freeing dragons, which is the exact opposite of intrinsically rewarding gameplay. Spyro 2 does a lot to mix things up. First, added to Spyro's glide by giving you this flutter jump at the end of a glide, which really saves your ass in a bind. Overall, a better control, a new mechanics like climbing walls, and best of all, swimming. It really shouldn't be getting much praise from me, but I really enjoyed the swimming gameplay in Spyro 2. It controlled super well, felt very intuitive, and made for great breaks in the main gameplay loop. The content is also way more diverse than in Spyro 1, doing various missions for the townspeople like recapturing flags, saving people, protecting these power things from the opposing villagers trying to steal them, stopping turtles and becoming food, releasing guys from stone, using the aiming system to hit targets, more involved flying, speedways, and full boss fights that require the player to think and play like a real boss fight unlike the garbage in the first game. Not everything is fun, of course, like there are more escort missions than I think would be ideal, but the extra variety is nice. That unfortunately didn't save the game for me though. Like, at first I was thinking, yeah, this game's actually pretty good. Pretty fun. But even with these improvements, I realized that Spyro's not a game series I'm much of a fan of at the end of the day. The main gameplay loop of entering stages, collecting shit, doing tasks, rinse and repeat was just not fun after the first world. I wish I had some grand way to write an essay about this, but much like pretty much every other collectathon, Spyro just bores me to tears, even with good improvements like better control and more variety. But the soundtrack is great though. The Spyro feel from the first game is here and accounted for, providing a memorable score to bop your head to while playing the game. If you want to know a soundtrack I really liked, that goes to Crash 2 Cortex Strikes Back. The Crash feel from the first game is also back with a much catchier direction, as these tracks will stick with you long after the console's turned off, like Snow Go, Hang 8, and the Eel Deal. Shit's just catchy as hell, what more can I say? I know, Crash 2 is a bitchin' sequel. What I liked about Crash 1 was the really arcade-like level design, but the controls didn't do it any favors. Crash 2 brings the A-game when it comes to that level design philosophy, designing moments of gameplay that are a blast to get through, complemented by Crash's new abilities, the baseball, slide, and jump upon finishing said move. This adds a flow to the Crash formula that was not there before, and I find it endlessly satisfying in this game to slide jump over pits and onto enemies. Just, so good. Level types returning from Crash 1, like chase levels and ride levels, have gotten a lot more exciting with a higher variety of obstacles to avoid, better animations, more tense music, and best of all, the control. I have to play Crash 3 again, because I'm pretty sure that was the game that added full DualShock support to the series, but Crash 2, with or without the analog stick, just feels so much better to play than Crash 1. Crash just has this weightless quality to him in this game that makes approaching any stage feel like a manageable challenge, which is a good thing as Crash 2 introduces the warp room structure to the series. 5 levels per each world, and there are 5 total worlds. I think Crash 2 is an easy game to get sick of, as the game doesn't really do anything to break up the monotony if you aren't digging its main gameplay loop, but this did not present an issue for me. The final warp room has always been my least favorite in the game, as the space levels leave a pretty bad taste in my mouth from the level design, like it's super cramped feeling, and then there are these jetpack stages which are ultimately harmless but not fun to play, making the final boss more of a hassle than it needed to be. Besides that, the bosses in this game test your pattern skills like Crash 1, but by making them more fun to face with more challenge present in my opinion. Crash 2, despite not being a game I want to drop everything to replay like a Mega Man X or something, it's a game I can always come back to get such a satisfying playthrough out of, which is enhanced by the amount of secrets in this game. Crash 1 was full of these, and they were of course a nightmare to collect, and while Crash 2 is loaded with secrets that are kind of annoying to get, like who is going to figure out that you can get a gem by not bashing a single box in the first stage, but on the whole, I think Crash 2 being littered with sequence breaks and secrets just adds to the fun, and as usually, I think the game does a great job with this. Like a bear falls down and leaves a loud bang on his way to the ground. Maybe there's something down there. Maybe these nitro crates that guarantee damage that are aligned like stairs means something. Lo and behold, it's another secret. Death roots, extra roots, gem paths, it's all there. And to top it all off, the thing that made completing Crash 1 so frustrating, the checkpoints and no room for error, is completely omitted, making Crash 2 a game that's fun to get treasures in. Which is basically how I feel about these two games. Like I said, I really hope for this video series to be more interesting, but Crash 2 was super fun, and Spyro 2 did some good stuff, but still kinda bored me. So the winner's clear in my mind. It's Crash 2 all the way. A lot of this comes down to preference, as established games like Spyro just don't do anything for me, and Crash has such simple, fun appeal that yeah, Crash 2 wins. But still, that doesn't mean Spyro 2 is bad or that you shouldn't try it. If you're into this sort of thing and want a good experience, I certainly recommend trying Spyro 2, as it has a lot of high quality improvements over the previous game. However, my tastes lie with the superb sequel that is Crash 2. But yeah, that's all the time we have for today. Spyro 3 is on quite the uphill battle at this point, because Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped is one hell of a game.